roll call the district calendar hearing, please, Joy.
Tim Barrett.
Here.
Linda Duncan.
Here.
Jerry Lees.
Here.
Rob Metzger. Sarah Wayne.
Crickets, crickets. All right, presentation of the proposed 21-22 district calendar.
Yes, let's hope for a mask-free 21-22 school year. We'll see, but I'm not
We
gonna,
have an agenda.
I'm not gonna guarantee anything, but fingers crossed.
Maybe 22.
Well, we'll see.
All right.
How soon can the vaccine be out? That's the
Yes.
key.
Yes, all right.
I know I've shared this in the past. This calendar mirrors what we've done this year. We start on a Wednesday, and then we end on a Wednesday as well. Basically, we start the last Wednesday of August, and we finish the last Wednesday in May. We've had a week-long spring break for a number of years. The only difference in this calendar versus this fiscal year 21's calendar is Good Friday falls in spring break this year, and in the proposed calendar, it's later in April. So that's the only difference. We meet the instructional requirement time. There you can see in the upper left-hand corner, we're approximately 40 hours above the requirement. We have 2 hour late starts. Let's say we have a year where we have 10 snow days like we did a couple years ago. It certainly gives us some flexibility. Christmas next year falls on a Saturday, so we go to school Monday and Tuesday. I say this jokingly, but you know what it is. That first week in January coming back, and come back on Monday, that'll be a long week. Everybody's gonna be feeling a little bit Christmas hungover. Usually that week's a little bit shorter, you know, you come back on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
It'll just make January a longer month,
Mhm.
but what
It
do you?
is what it is.
I know, it's not,
Interesting.
so there's nothing in there that's, whatnot.
Okay.
Are there any questions or anything from the public?
Yeah. All right. It's been presented, the proposal, so.
Okay, we can take a
I'd
5-minute break.
I'd entertain a motion for
That was
adjournment.
exhausting.
I move to adjourn. I will second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right.
Seconded, because we will.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the December 9th Wilton Community School District regular board meeting. The mission of the Wilton Community School District is to provide education that encourages continual progress through the improvement of one's abilities, the expansion of one's interests and knowledge, and the growth of one's character. Roll call, Ms. Garrels.
Tim Barrett.
Here.
Linda Duncan.
Here.
Jeremy Lees.
Here.
Rob Metzger.
Here.
Sarah Wayne.
I have no additions or corrections to add to the agenda.
I will approve, make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor of approving, is there any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We have the minutes approval here from November 11th, our regular board meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the November 11th minutes.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from November 11th. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, number 4 is electing a board president and vice president. Instead of having a motion to move to, I move that a person's president, because that's what we'll start with. We just had to have any nominations from the floor. So it'd be I nominate X or I nominate Y. If one person nominates another person and there's no other people that are nominated or whatnot, I would say all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye, et cetera, et cetera. But there's not a motion for a particular person. But are there any nominations from the floor for board president?
nominate Linda Duncan for president.
Are there any other nominations on the floor? Okay. Everyone in favor of electing Linda Duncan for a one-year term as board president, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
You're unanimously elected
Thank
president.
you.
You're no longer president-elect.
So, President-elect. Oh, wow.
This election is not fraudulent.
You need to recount.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, Linda, that's now you take
All
over
right, now.
and do the same thing for vice president.
Yes, I will take nominations for vice president.
Can I ask if you know what the chair want to do? So,
You know, I did not. I'm assuming so,
sure.
that she would be, I mean, I think we can do it without her being here.
I nominate Carolyn for vice president.
Are there any other, anybody else? All right. Then we do have to vote?
Yep.
Okay,
all in favor.
so we need a nomination and a second, and then we'll.
No, you just say everyone in
Just
favor.
everyone in favor. Sorry.
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right, I'll let Tara know.
We'll let her know.
Maybe, you
Been
know,
elected.
yeah, all right. Now, so we now need to adopt the rules of procedure, which are Robert's Rules of Order, correct?
You've done this a time or two, Lynn.
He asked us a time, so we just need a nomination to adopt those rules.
Do we have a motion or nomination?
That's a motion now.
Motion.
Now we move in
I
second.
move to adopt Robert's rules of order. Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, set date, time, and place for regular meetings. Are there any comments, suggestions to change? Or is this working? Is this okay? We kind of can, if we want, this is the time to do it. Any, is it okay? Is it okay? What- Okay, so, go ahead.
I move to continue with the same date, time, and place, 5 o'clock and 5:30, depending on which meeting we do.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying, do we need to be a little more specific, or can we say just what we've always done?
If you have a motion to
A second.
continue,
Okay, so, all right,
So that works.
yeah,
Yes.
no, it's
All right.
fine.
Joy, fill in the blanks.
okay. Do we have a second?
Jim.
All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right. Appointment of board secretary, which is Joy Garrels, correct? We just need a motion, appointment, but we still have to have a motion.
Yeah.
Motion to approve Joey Girls as the board secretary.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, Ms. Stacy as board treasurer.
I move to continue Stacy as board treasurer.
Oh.
I'll second that.
Wait a minute, what are you seconding? You're quitting or?
Stacy,
No.
no, board treasurer,
That is
no.
different.
All right, we have a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, designation of official publication, which is the Advocate, Durant, it's, what is the official? Wilton Durant Advocate News? All right,
Move to approve the Wilton Grant Advocate News as an official publication.
Second.
all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, designation of legal counsel, that I don't.
It's been Dallas Lynch, out of
Dallas
Cedar
Lynch.
Rapids,
All right.
Brett Nitschke.
Okay. Continuation.
Yep.
All right.
Make a motion for the continuation of.
Dallas Lynch.
Dallas Lynch.
Second.
That. All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, appoint committees. Could we have a refresher of who's what?
Well, here's where we were,
Okay.
from what I recall,
Okay.
but last year was an unusual year by any stretch of the imagination. But I know we had Linda and Tim on the full board. On the Goodwill Committee, from what I remember, it was Linda and Tara.
That's what I,
Okay, the Maintenance Committee, I believe, was Tim and Jeremy. Is that correct? On the policy committee, I believe was Rob and either Tim or Tara. I don't recall 100%, I'm not busy for me.
Okay.
And the legislative committee, I think was Rob and
I was
Jeremy.
gonna say, okay.
Rob and Jeremy were on that.
Okay, so Tara and Rob.
It has to be a policy with Rob and Tara.
Rob and Tara, Tim and Rob.
Yeah, all right. So I guess discussion, changes. Anybody, I mean, you know, I'm okay with pool board too, that's fine. Nathan's was fine, all right. Okay,
So, okay, we don't need a motion or anything. If
No,
you're set on
just-
that, all we have to do is basically appoint them.
okay,
So if they're officially appointed.
all right, sounds good.
I'll stay on for that county thing,
Oh, you were the one.
Oh, okay, we're trying to figure that out.
All
And
right.
that's under miscellaneous at the end, but that's perfect, because
yeah, forget what that's called.
Muscatine County Conference Board.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I've never received.
Well, then that's, did they do something this year?
Yeah, because it was before COVID.
Because that was February.
that's what we were trying to think, if they did it or
Okay.
not.
Maybe one of their final things, maybe that doesn't, it was, but, yeah.
Okay, good. All right, well, good, that takes care of that. All right, so we're set with that, so now we can move on to the public forum, which there isn't anything, correct?
Correct?
So then we go to business financial functions. Stacy, please.
The first item is upload number 3, the taxation funds. Anyone have any questions on any of the taxation funds? I think really the only thing that I would have to mention is under Fund 33, our local option sales and service tax, which actually is called SAVE nowadays, that acronym. We did get our reconciliation payment for fiscal year 20, and luckily we got a payment for fiscal year 20, but obviously COVID was only for a few months of that, so I expect things to be a little bit different in fiscal year 21, but we did get an additional $25,000 in our 1-cent sales tax for the reconciliation payment, and we actually also got some documentation that the estimate for this year's 1-cent sales tax is going down a little bit, which surprises me because most online ordering has sales tax on it now, and it didn't before, but they're estimating it to go down just a little bit, but nothing drastic, so that's where we are with that. Any questions on any of the taxation funds? There are none. We'll go to upload number 4, which is instructional support program. We have our year-to-date revenues at the top. In the middle of the first page is how we have our ISP program budgeted, and then our expenditures to date at the bottom, and the remaining balances at the top of the second page. Any questions or comments on any of the ISP? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to upload number 5, which is the self-insurance fund. So, as I mentioned most months, the medical portion of the self-insurance fund is still sitting in the general fund, and I'm going back to see what that amount was. It's currently at $44,000, which we do use some of that for our wellness program. But it's currently at $44,000, and it's still sitting in the general fund. It's not in the self-insurance fund at this time. We generally do that either mid-year and at the end of the year, or just at the end of the year. But you can see the fund breakdown for medical, dental, and vision, what is in the self-insurance fund. And we still have healthy balances in all of those. And we did not raise our rates for dental and vision this year. Any questions or comments? Upload number 6 would be the latchkey fund. See the before and after school program usage from comparing the month of November to the previous month of October, and it's comparable for overall usage. And we continue to get the grant fund Upload number 7 would be how that we spent their money in the month of November in addition to payroll. And then upload number 8 would be nutrition fund. So we're still showing you the school year lunch program usage and the breakfast program usage from day 1 of school. But I have a note there that there were only 12 days of the regular food service school program. And so far, we've had 51 days of the CARES program, which they're projecting currently that CARES program will go for free lunches till the end of the school year or until money runs out, whichever comes first. So I'll have that put out there for you. And then the financials are on the second page. Any questions or comments on and we did not receive any of our reimbursements in the month of November, and I have a feeling that was due to some paperwork processing due to our director being out. We'll probably see double in the month of December, I would guess. And then upload number 9 would be the vendor report for nutrition fund and how they spend their money in addition to payroll. So there's a lot of extra expense for packaging due to COVID. Upload number 10 would be the breakdown for the free meals and by building, and then overall breakfasts and lunch. Upload number 11, first page would be the student activity fund. And I believe the negative accounts are the ones we talked about before. And in spite of it, our athletic accounts are still healthy. We have cheerleading and then winter canteen is in the negative due to startup, and spring canteen due to fees that we pay for Sam's Club. Any questions on anything on student activity fund? And then on top of the next page would be our FFA enterprise fund, which is the farm and greenhouse and all of the animals. And then our flex spending account that we keep at our local bank, and the custodial funds that Joy does the accounting for, but we do not technically own the money. Any questions on any of those accounts? Then the following upload would be the 3 vendor reports for the month of November for all of those funds. Upload number 13 would be the activities driving report, the sports at the top, and then we had drivers that had to take some stop class trainings. Right now, no classroom activities, and no outside groups using our buses. Upload 14A. This would be the bill that I emailed you about after last board meeting when we found out that, in fact, well, first we got the bill and it was not correct with the numbers that Mr. Meyer, he's the one keeping track of the usage for Ingenuity. And the numbers he had and the numbers they billed us for were not correct. They were billing us for more than he had. So he got that straightened out. And when we got the bill, everything was already, checks were already printed from the board meeting. And so he checked and they said that we can pay it next month, and then within a week, they came back and said Ingenuity is probably gonna charge us a late fee. So I sent you the email on this, and this is the detail for that bill that I paid, before the end of November, so we did not get a late fee. So this is all extra costs due to COVID. Fund 31 would, well, actually, I go back. Fund 22 would be our management fund. Fund 31 would be the bond construction. 33 is the general 1 cent sales tax. 34 is building projects with 1 cent sales tax. And then 36 is our capital and 40 is our debt service. So any questions or comments about any of the bills submitted for payment?
Is everything with the construction project been pretty well on budget so far?
Well, we've had a few change orders, but so far I think we're good, but we're only probably halfway through it, if that.
Sure.
John,
So far, absolutely, we're close.
Yeah.
Good.
We have money set aside and the 1 cent sales tax that I've reserved for, and hopefully that project may not end until after I'm gone, but we do have money set aside for that, so. And we have received the contribution from the Townsends for this year's, thank you, contributions from the Townsends for this year's payment already, so. That was nice, so we have that.
Maybe she'd stay a little longer if I could. That.
Nice doesn't work for Stacy.
Good try.
Right, that's why I'm leaving, though, it's not been nice.
Wow. All right,
I'll make a motion to pay the bill.
Second.
all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Stacy. Now we'll move on to administrative reports information. Mrs. Austin is up, please.
Holiday giving, our teachers always are happy to participate in fundraisers when it involves exchange for Jeans Day. So we donated, the elementary staff donated $600 to food pantry and $400 to the Shop with a Cop program. So yeah, I think that's really impressive. Each of the classrooms, and it's kind of part of the Leader in Me, they're all doing different giving things. But as a building, we were contacted by the Clarence EMS director, and she was gathering notes and pictures and cards and greetings to distribute to the nursing homes in the area. And the stack that we received was very heartwarming, and the kids really did a great job. And I think they will be definitely spreading cheer around to Cedar County and the area. Our walking club has walked to Nashville, Tennessee, and we don't track their miles out. So they are really getting their done. And then at the very bottom, I listed where our current progress with our Leader in Me action teams. The academic team is continuing to add to the notebooks, which eventually the end goal is to do student-led conferences. We're not there yet, but we're going to maybe dabble in it in the spring. The culture team, which was responsible for the walking club, now they moved on to the Leader Wall of Fame, and they are working on the holiday program, which will have to be virtual this year, but it's going to be great. I'll send you the link once it's done. It's good. And we are anxiously awaiting the arrival of our judges, Rudy, Rudolph, Eddie the Elf, and Santa, of which one is in our midst. So the elementary, and we're going to reach out with our program to all of our Edgenuity kids as well, and include them. And perhaps even our 6th graders from last year that are in Edgenuity as 7th graders, simply because they haven't even been in the junior high building yet. So that, I think, is a positive. And then the pictures that you see around the board report, every month when we have our Leader in Me meetings, our committee meetings, we have the co-curriculars are in charge of a 15-minute sharpen your saw activity. So it was Amanda Kruger's, there are teachers, turn this time, and she had the staff all paint and decorate our ornaments for our holiday tree. So I just, the most impressive, the very bottom one, which I think is really well done, the green tree,
Yes.
Jake Sherrod. Right?
Who'd have known?
Yeah.
Nice, I like it.
So do I have any questions?
Which ornament is yours?
None that are listed. Not falling for it now. Mine's very light.
Otherwise, everything's gone okay with cleaning and doing and kids and just everything. I know you probably tell us if there's a little glitch somewhere, but so far,
It is second nature to them.
good, good.
At least from my perspective. They really do a very, very good job. And it's just how they do business, I mean, it's just how they go to school now. I think they'll all be glad when we aren't.
When we don't,
The most difficult thing for elementary kids is they can't mix with their friends during the day.
yes.
You know, recess, they're still with their class, they're with their class all the time. Has its pros and cons,
Yes.
but it's how we keep them safe. And they are just little learning machines right now. It's heartwarming.
I'm always amazed watching them, the little guys walking to school, and they're masked up, walking to school,
Yeah.
and walking home, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not even a, thing to think about, you just do it, kind of thing, so that's great.
I agree. Children are very adaptable. They really are.
Much more than we are.
Yeah. And I think most of them want to be here too. You know, they really do. We
Yes.
explain to them any of
Yes.
the trouble we've had, we
Yes.
just talk to them about this, what it has to be.
I think back to August, when what we were thinking back then, how, and it's amazed me how everybody's adapted.
I never would have guessed it would have been this easy to be as consistent.
So, any more questions for Denise? We'll thank her. We'll on to
Yeah, we, just started with a little gloom and doom. Tonight would have been our entire champion, so we had to cancel that. And then we've also had to cancel our Cookies in the Commons that's traditionally held right before Christmas. It was a pretty big fundraiser for prom, and we just couldn't take that risk with having all the food out. And prom, the account was pretty good, so we decided not to try to modify that anyway, so we just can't. So hopefully 2021, both of those things can come back. Last board meeting, right beforehand, we had the NHS induction ceremony, which was very formal, very quick, and kind of sweet to the point. So I just listed the students that were previously inducted, and then the new inductees there, just as a follow-up. Last Wednesday for professional development, we did a session on Google Classroom and all the new features. So since spring, Google has done they've released a lot of new things that would be advantageous for our teachers to have in their back pocket if we need to online. So we spent about an hour teaching that content and then having to go out and explore. So we're a little bit more ready if we need it. Hopefully we won't need it, but there were some things that they even do in the classroom now that was good. So Bo Huber and Nicole Hewitt facilitated that and did a nice job with that. So AIW continues to be our focus. I was around all the teams today. They are just doing awesome with instruction. They've got the recording down, they've got the process down. Really proud of our team, and I actually sent them an email midday on how proud I was of the work they're doing. So right now, them scoring tasks is routine. I mean, their scores are almost completely lined up. Instruction is getting better. We're getting to the point where we have our leads have all presented, and now it's some of our specialty areas, and our new people are presenting, so we're kind of at that point. And we're going to roll out the scoring of student work in January. So we'll have all three pieces of AIW rolled out. So to just, like I mentioned it today, just to think about where we were 3 years ago with implementing that and where we are today, it's really a tribute to our teachers and their focus. And, professional development is one of those things that can be contentious within districts. Teachers view it as a waste of time, and administrators sometimes don't do a good job with facilitating that learning and things like that. And I'm not taking any credit. Our staff has done kind of the legwork to roll this out and be successful with it. When you get the teacher leading that, that's where the rubber meets the road, and it's not a top-down approach. And so we've been very lucky, and that's been going really well. And junior high plays coming up in January, January 14th actually. They're doing Alice in Wonderland, so right now we're planning on 2 spectators, but who knows by January 14th where we'll be with that. And really, Friday's our deadline for Edgenuity, for parents to let us know if they're gonna send their students back second semester, which the semester ends on January 15th. So we do have a few families coming back. We've communicated to families that they should be at about 75% complete right now. We continue to follow up with families where students are falling behind. We have some epic, I'm gonna call it epic fails, with students just not getting online and doing the work. And when that happens, and you get a week or 2 go by, and you've only logged down an hour when you should have logged down 8, it snowballs on you, and so we've been trying to stay on top of that and keep up with that, but that's a struggle. So some of those families are sending their students back second semester, so we'll have a better number after Friday and what that looks like. So other than that, that's what I have in my report. Just to talk about the masks a little bit, it's been the last 2 weeks we've turned the corner. I mean, I felt like I was continually telling students to pull the mask up over their nose, and I don't know what's really changed, but I feel like I don't hardly ever say that anymore. Even in the cafeteria, students get up, they go to a la carte, they go down their tray, they're really good about it. So, I don't know, I've kind of with Mrs. Austin, the last couple of weeks, we've turned that corner even more, and it's just routine, and that's going well, better than I thought it would ever go, so just wanted to mention that. Any questions for me?
I'll disagree with you, Mark. You have done an outstanding job of leading the AAW. Like leader, like people. So your enthusiasm and keeping it organized. So kudos to you. And again, that goes back to the Townsend Foundation of funding that. So thank you. Thankful for their support.
Thank you. We will move on and look at the activities. Is there anything?
Yeah, is there anything you want to talk about with,
No, I mean, just that.
Yeah.
I updated you earlier, just briefly
Yeah.
about,
Yep.
It's weird only having 2 people there. I think last night we had Durant, of course, and we had 100 people in between all of the games, and Durant had 101. So I mean, I think that was the number they told me this morning. So yeah, it's really cut back. You were at the game last night. It's interesting. It's weird. It's what we have to do, but hopefully we'll get back to normal soon.
yeah, I was in the student section, it was virtually me. There it goes. You can stay on the wall.
Yeah.
Although, but,
Yeah. What do you do?
I don't know.
All right. With that, thank
Okay.
you. We will move on to our action items. Consent agenda number 1.
All right, personnel changes. We have 1 resignation at the end of the school year, so it's not immediate. But Ms. Allison Pearson is our current junior senior high social studies teacher. She'd like to resign at the end of the year, our fiscal year. And then we have a couple job descriptions. Letter A being the school business official / board treasurer, which is Stacy's role. And then superintendent / board secretary, which is Stacy's role. And this comes at a very good time as we're looking to fill the SBO position in the spring of having an updated job description, especially with human resource person being in place and how the assignments have changed and whatnot. So that's reflected in the job descriptions. That's all I have under consent agenda number 1. I guess looking at the SBO position, I'll just expand upon that a little bit further. And working backwards, I would like to be in a position where we have someone on board. Stacy's last day is the end of March, so let's say April 1st. I'd like to have somebody on board around March 1st. So it's about a month overlap. When that person can work with Stacy on the budget, which would be great experience, negotiations, and just have that time to really get acclimated. That's a tough job to come in if Stacy's walking out the door March 31st, the new person walks in April 1st. So working backward from that, when we get back from Christmas break, when I get together with Lana, Moeller, our HR person, and getting that advertised and moving forward. And like to have interviews set up for the latter part of January, and then do our work in early February, and have them start, like I said, March 1st-ish. I don't know what day March 1st falls on the calendar, but you get my drift, somewhere in that timeline. So, but I'll keep you posted, but that's our game plan with that. So, that's all I have on consent agenda number 1.
Move to approve consent agenda number 1.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda number 2, our favorite policy.
That's right. It's a 203 to 208 series. Everything's laid out from a state perspective there as far as conflicts of interest, code of ethics, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing, this is up to the board, you know, they have that self-evaluation policy there in 208. That's something, you know, be to the point where the board wants to do some type of self-evaluation, do something along those lines, but that's really up to the board to decide how you want to handle that. We are very blessed here to have a very cohesive group. If, unfortunately, a district is not in that scenario where we've got, you know, different orbits of, you know, board members, sometimes that self-evaluation can be more beneficial. I'm not saying it's not a good practice to do when you have great cohesiveness, but we're very fortunate to have that, and the key is to continue that. Sometimes with self-evaluation, if there are areas in improvement, it's a good conversation starter. So that's all I have on percentage of number 2. Certainly take any questions.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda number 2.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, consent agenda number 3.
Yeah, A, B, and C are, from last month, we made some tweaks with the board directors' elections. Obviously, with the changes that were made legislatively, the oath of office and the term of office, again, based upon that December meeting being start and whatnot. And letter D, the consent agenda number 3, is the calendar as presented in the hearing. Are there any questions on any of those?
I move to approve consent agenda number 3.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, individual action.
Yeah, letter A, we have several under this tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, letter A is our is our employee retirement incentive for fiscal year 21, which means June 30th. You can see what's laid out there. It's the same as it's been in the past as far as the parameters of people that are eligible and how the program works. Being 15 years in the district, being 55 years old, they have to let the board know by February 1st, and then we would approve that at the February board meeting, and then move forward. So Joy, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but she has letters potentially ready to go, but are there 21 or 22 people eligible?
I don't think it's that many.
Don't think it's that many this year? So that includes all employees, whether it's bus driver, cook, teacher, et cetera. Are there any questions on that? But it does, we have to do individual approving of these.
I'll make a motion.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, B.
Yeah,
That's this.
I'm excited about this, and asked Jeremy Pickard to share some information with the board. An area of growth that I truly believe that public schools have needed in the state, and quite honestly nationwide, but I can't compare what we do here versus Illinois and other states because I don't work there. But technical education, I think, needs to have a greater focus at the secondary level. the state of Iowa. And I have served on a committee of superintendents throughout our AEA and also throughout our county to try to get more career academies, opportunities for kids, again, to sample some of that career tech. And there's a lot of information in here, and I'm just going to hit a few highlights, but these are yours to take with you to look at, okay? If you look at the actual brochure, okay, and you look at what I call the third page, which is the far right, where it says Muscatine Community College, okay? Talks about the current projected career academies of advanced manufacturing, engineering, tech, agriculture, culinary arts, education, information technology, network for systems, security, allied health, and nursing, and well-being. Those are the ones that they've been doing and will continue to do and grow some of them. Education, they're not doing currently. Mr. Snavely can jump in at any time on these, by the way. And they're looking at some new or enhanced academies. They're looking at running a bond referendum in the spring throughout the entire AEA to build a facility at the Clinton campus, the Scott campus, and the Muscatine campus. But either way, they're growing their academies. If they have a newer facility, they can just expand and enhance some of those, okay? So it gives our kids an opportunity. It's basically 1 to 3 p.m., okay? It's set up for students in grades 11 and 12, most likely someone that's a senior, but certainly a junior could participate if they, qualify. But the nice part is, we can give this information out to families at 8th grade freshman orientation and say, hey, if you like, if your son or daughter has an interest in any of these programs, nursing, et cetera, hey, here's an opportunity for them later on in high school. And in the past, it's been tough because it hasn't been, how do I say this, projected out far enough. Okay, instead of saying this could be there, it will be there. And from the community colleges side, you think of the chicken or the egg. They need a commitment from schools to say we're going to fill these spots, and we need a commitment to know that it's going to be there. So in working together, if you look at the handout, let me see here. Okay, if you look at the handout that has the red column, okay, it looks like this. It's a spreadsheet, but there's red to the left. What we decided was we're going to start with 80 seats total in all these programs, okay? And as you can imagine, there was a lot of conversation about equity. Okay, Muscatine High School is obviously much closer to the MCC campus than we are Durant is and also West Liberty. But we felt like, and I was going to bat for our kids, hey, we need to have some guaranteed spots in these programs. I'll just be one, Muscatine would fill all these.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, I mean, they're a bigger school.
Right.
And they would fill these programs. At the same time, MCC needed a commitment from us to say, hey, we're willing to do this for a certain time, and the agreement's 10 years. Okay? That means that if you look at Wilton's numbers, out of the 80 seats, we're guaranteed 7. When it goes up to 100, which is what they're wanting to ramp up to, we'll be guaranteed 9 seats. Now, absolute worst case scenario, I don't see this happening, but of course it could. Let's say we only fill 5 of those seats. Those other 2 seats would be available to the other schools that are in the consortium to fill. Let's say for some crazy reason, nobody takes them. Muscatine said we take them all right now.
Right.
Okay, but I'm just giving you worst case scenario.
Yeah.
We'd be on the hook to pay for 2 of those seats, which is the tuition of 2 spots. Okay, at the same time, let's say we've got 10 kids that want to do it, and if there's another district that doesn't fill it, we have to figure out a lottery system. I think it's going to be the flip where people want more seats. I don't think it's going to be, once this gets established and these programs grow, I think we're going to have our challenges cut out here of determining who can go and who can't. No, I mean, I think that's going to be,
Good.
I'm more concerned about that, of having those parameters in place. If we have 15 kids that want to do this, we've got 9 seats. What's our determinants?
Correct.
Well, you also have to plan ahead, like as early as your sophomore year to decide if you kind of want to do this, so you can get some of those those credits and those classes done because you are off campus the whole afternoon.
Yeah, 1 to 3.
Yeah, so some students don't like that either, especially if they're in activities. But this is the first year where we actually have students in the academies. We have a student in the advanced manufacturing, and we also have 2 students in nursing, and we have, not in the education academy, but Mr. Grunder has that new classes here, which is like an intro to education. We have 2 students in that. So this is really the first year where we turn the corner to get some students.
So
And
is that up to 5 or 6 kids?
what's that?
How many kids is that talking, 5 or 6 that are in it now?
Yeah, there's 4 right now.
And you're not, are you counting Mr. Runners?
No, because that class is here.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have that, and we haven't even, it hasn't even promoted like what's coming at us, we already have 4, is what I'm saying. So Mr. Snavely is correct, you know, kids have to have an idea, so they get their schedules done, to get certain classes out of the way, and be prepared for this. And what is great, if you look at the back, okay, there's the other handout here, there's 2 pages, it's got the pie graph, et cetera. If you look at the back page of that, the connection scholarships, check these out, the first 3 bullets. The level 1 scholarship is half price tuition for fall and spring terms if you've earned 12 credits while you're in high school. And if you have a 3-point GPA, you can finish up your time at MCC half price. And you've already got 12 credits knocked out.
Yeah.
That's a great deal. You see the level 2, you get 1 free 3-credit-hour class for fall and spring term if you've earned at least 6 credit hours while in high school with a minimum of 2.5. So, you know, academics are tougher for you. You still get basically free 6 credit hours. So, boy, I'll tell you what, and you can see at the bottom there, you can see our scholarship recipients. Look how it's grown since 2018. 2018, we had 1 level 1 person. 2020, we've got 8. And 3 level 2s and 1 level 3. That's impressive. And you know, with the cost of tuition and everything, what an opportunity. So I'm excited about the potential of the academies. And again, it really puts that focus on the trades. And I consider trades, you know, nursing, the 2-year programs, and even the education piece. We talked about this at our last meeting, you know, with the I don't call it teacher shortage because we're not completely at that point, but we've certainly seen a drop in the number of applicants that are teaching positions. Getting kids that head start, they know they want to explore the educational side. They can take 12 hours of intro to education all night. So I'm really excited about this program. These are yours to keep. But take a look at some of the numbers, and if there's any questions, let me know. So that's what I have for letter E, and that starts July 1st. Hey, the other thing I wanted to mention is, the way this 28E is set up, they even have it set up, and I don't know if we'll utilize it this way, we'll just have to look at our finances or whatnot, but because we're paying for seats, which is considered a rental, okay, we can actually pay for the program through our PEPAL fund. Wouldn't even come out of the general fund. Plus, we get supplementary weighting. I don't know if they consider concurrent enrollment, Stacy, or supplementary weighting.
We get supplemental weighting for concurrent enrollment, so.
So, I believe it's considered concurrent enrollment, but I do know we get supplementary weighting. So we will get money back from the state as well for every student that goes down there. So it's a great deal. So I'm really excited about it. This has been a long time coming, and we've had these conversations for years. It just seemed like we were spinning our tracks, and it's finally coming to fruition. So anyway, that's enough on that, but I'm just excited about it.
When does that go to vote? They're going to pass it on.
The bond that they're looking at will be later this spring, and I'll keep you informed on that too, on what that would look like. Good question, Mr. Chamberlain, but yeah, it'll be later this spring. Here's the deal, they wanted to make sure everybody passed it before they take it to a bond throughout the AEA, because if people don't sign on to this, they're not going to try for the facility. So, but yes, that's the tentative plan, and everything that we've heard back from everybody is, yeah, why wouldn't we? any questions? That's all I have for letter B.
Need a motion for?
Yep. Yep.
Letter B?
Yep.
Second.
All those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Joy, will you find Linda after the meeting and have her sign one of these copies and then scan that to Mr. or Dr. Pickard?
No.
All right, thank you. All right, letter C, the information I have in the packet is the MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding, in working with the city of Wilton in replacing Mr. Dutchaver's position, going from a JCL to an SRO, juvenile court liaison to a school resource officer. And I know that I've given you the information, but I'll touch upon some of the pieces on that. Basically, we're sharing someone with a police officer background that works as also a liaison with the city and also with the county as far as having that role. And the duties that Officer Johnson would have, Mr. Stanley and I and Chief Clark sat down and we met with Officer Johnson, and he did a job shadow with Mr. Dutchaver. He also went over to Durant with their SRO. Durant's had an SRO. They're in the second year of having that position over there, and he job shadowed there for a day just to see what it was like and gather information from both of them. So we met with Officer Johnson, and we're really excited about the possibility of having him in Mr. Dutchaver's role, which is, again, that liaison between the school and the city and the county as far as the court system, truancies, et cetera, et cetera. He'd also be involved in what Mr. Dutchaver did, which was helping teachers, with certain classes and coursework and working with kids with at-risk. And he does all the emergency planning as far as, school safety and whatnot. It's really a valuable position for our school in 2020, just given everything that we're responsible for in today's world. And the thing that I've seen in Durant, so I've got experience with this, with the SRO position, is really develop that relationship. In any position, it's about the person. It's not the position, it's the person that makes it. So that's why we feel comfortable with Officer Johnson, because when we sat down with him, it's like, it takes a special person, because you're not walking around with the billy club. You're walking around to try to develop relationships. So if there is something where someone wants to come forward on something, have a relationship with that person. I joke that when I was a teenager, you didn't always see the police as someone that was a friend or someone that you wanted to go to, rather someone who avoided. As I've matured, I've grown closer to the police because they're protecting me. But when you're young, you see them as someone that's looking at you as they're getting me in trouble. By having someone in this role and develop those relationships, be down in the lunchroom with the kids, etc., I think that should help in kids developing that relationship with someone in law enforcement. That's the goal, okay? That being said, in working with the city, how it works, that person has a 12-month contract, but while they're in school, and they're here all day, every day, we pay 75% of the contract because school's about a 9-month window. In the summer months, then they go and work for the city. That doesn't mean, maybe they work on the weekend for the city during the school year, or Christmas break, or maybe spring break, or whatnot. They're a city employee, so basically, just like Ryan Lilienthal, for example, he's employed by the Durant Community School District as the bus driver, and we reimburse, they bill us, and we reimburse the Durant District for Ryan's costs, that we share. That's how that works with the city as far as this contract. The cost of a law enforcement officer in this role is more than what someone in the JCL position is. And I have the benefits and whatnot. It's about a $65,000 position cost to the district, and that's 75% of the total package. That's not salary, that's total package with FICA, retirement, insurance, etc. That is $25,000 to $30,000 more than what we were paying for the the JCL position. Okay, but I will say this, the JCL positions, one of the reasons we lost Mr. Dutchaver, and that tends to be a revolving door, is they are significantly underpaid compared to, they don't make as much as a first-year teacher. Okay, and he's been here, how many years has Mr. Dutchaver been here?
So this is your son.
A first-year teacher makes more than what Mr. Dutchaver makes. And so that's why we tend to lose those people, because they, and I get it in social work, it's a different beast, and that's who he's hired under, okay, on the social work side. The good news is we can take this out of our risk funding, okay, and so working with Stacy, we will approve the at-risk budget at the January board meeting for the fiscal year 22. Okay, well, with the JCL position, we were 50-50 with the county and with the school. That was a pretty good deal because he worked here full-time. Okay, they didn't take him 50% of the time, but we got 50% of the fund. So that's the difference, but we're able to put that through the at-risk. There was talk last spring before the whole COVID situation, allowing schools some flexibility because of the growing number of SROs of schools to find some alternative ways to pay for that within current system that would come out of the general fund, even if you didn't use it for at-risk. So I anticipate that potentially down the road as well. But even if it doesn't happen, I believe this is the way to go. And like any position, if we try it for 6 months or a year and a half, or, you know, I say, because we're starting mid-year, let's say we do it the rest of this year and try it one other year. If we want to do a change and want to go back to a JCL, that's up to the board. You know, this isn't something we're locked in for, you know, perpetuity. So, that being said, I know I said this to you in an email, that first graders like surprises, I don't, and I don't like any surprises to be spawned on the board either, so I really try to communicate with you the rationale, but the timelines were just, it was tight just because of Mr. Dutchaver's resignation timeline, and trying to work with the city, and you know, with Thanksgiving being there, it just, so I apologize, and certainly, I wanted you to have all the information that you could. We're hoping to have this position start the first of the year. We're currently, Mr. Dutchaver's last day was that Sunday of Thanksgiving, if you will, but, so we've got a gap here, and having someone on the grounds, we'd like that person to start when we resume from Christmas break. The city's going to take this to a vote at their next council meeting, so, which would be 14, next Monday. So, we've had really good conversations with Chris Ball and Chief Clark and Mr. Snavely. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I just think, you know, Todd, I think he has 25 years of experience and great, he's great with kids, he knows a lot of them. If you live in Wilton, he probably already knows them, and one day he was outside the office just talking with me, and there was about 5 kids that came up to him and fist bumped him on the way out, so it was very evident to me that he already has a strong relationship with a lot of the kids, and he's going to come in and even develop them deeper and things like that. So he's just a really good fit. I wouldn't throw anybody in that position. It's a really tough position because it's so dynamic and so many different things. But there'll be a learning curve too. So yeah, I think he'll be a good fit for the position and hit the ground running.
From my experience, what I've seen in my other district that I serve, there's really some times where it really benefits having a person with law enforcement background. If you got a tough situation with a family dynamic, maybe a family that, you know, mom and dad aren't together and they're having a custody situation, it's really been beneficial to just have somebody with a background. And as I said, if we have an emergency scenario here, we don't call 911 if Officer Johnson's here, he picks up his mic and it's immediate to dispatch. So there's just, you know, when we talk about coordination as far as emergency services and planning or whatnot, they're a liaison to that they do that. And so I think the benefits of having an SRO versus JCL, more schools are going that direction too. When Durant started this program 2 years ago, they went and visited the West Branch School District. I went with them, went over and visited with their, you know, a couple of their board members and their SRO and their school administration, and they thought it was worth a shot, and it's been a really positive in Durant too, so, I've certainly seen the benefits of it.
Are these always set up for the city, with the city employee? So I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing you say it kind of all came to me.
You know, kind of like a lot of things, it's been crazy, but we're always trying to move the ball in the right direction, and, again, you had Thanksgiving there, we had advertised for the JCL position too, and, you know, we met with, it just, there was a lot of balls to get lined up to make this work, and, you know, getting the MOU and getting everything in place.
But it sounds like it's with the right person, it just.
Well, the city had to agree to do this, because
Also too,
this is
so-
25% that they didn't have in their budget,
Correct.
you know, so,
And we talked about the possibility of someday exploring it if Mr. Dutcher ever left, and
Yeah,
we just didn't think we could get it done quick enough, that's why we advertised it. And then,
yeah.
in conversation with the city, they're like, we can absolutely get this done that quick. Because they were in the process of hiring somebody else at the
That's right,
time.
right, right.
It just wouldn't always work, but it was like perfect timing for both.
That's what I'm thinking.
the stars aligned.
Yes,
The odds were slim, but it just,
It
it
all
worked.
fell into
But we
place.
had Plan B in place
Correct.
if it didn't. And so kudos to Mr. Snavely, because he was going down the Plan B path at the same time as Plan A, because we want somebody to be on board
Yes.
after Christmas.
So when we do like the annual evaluation, one thing that I'm particularly interested in is historical discipline data versus after the switch. I agree that Officer Johnson's a really good fit, but just broadly, the SRO, when it doesn't work, or when it does come under fire, it's due to the perceived influence it's having on disciplinary decisions, so.
I can tell you right now.
Especially with high-risk students, so that's something that we need to.
But we're not gonna be able to use data from this year.
I
I can
understand
tell you
that.
right now, our discipline data is way, way down right now.
Sure.
I don't know if it's because everybody's in mask, but it continues to be super, super low, and it's not always gonna be that way, Rob, but I think you're right.
But you're right, I think we need to look at it and
Yeah.
see if there's spikes or, you know, trends that emerge.
Yeah.
This year didn't happen, but it's not more than.
This is a weird year, yeah.
It's, yeah.
And I
So,
guess my crystal ball doesn't show that discipline referrals will be down by any stretch, nor can I see if they're gonna be up. Because still all the discipline comes through the high school principal's office, and, Mr. Dutchaver was an assistant to Mr. Snavely and investigated a lot of those things, but then brought I won't say a recommendation, but just brought the facts to the administration, and ultimately the administration decides what the disciplinary consequences are. So I don't,
when you change the players, sometimes the discipline.
You're right.
can be effective, so
no, you're right.
I don't think there'll be an issue, I just think that's something that I'm mindful of, so.
No, that's a fair question. That's fair.
Who decides his, like, a pay raise? So if he wants a pay raise the next year,
That's a city
then we're
decision.
just forced to pay 75% then.
And that will actually happen in July. We do,
Yeah.
because this contract does not run with the fiscal year.
So in a year where you're struggling as a school district, you're forced to pay whatever the city decides they want to do.
But that works with, so in a lot of, not a lot, whatever Durant decides to pay Ryan Lilienfeld's contract, that's how it works. Whatever you decide to pay my contract, that's how it works for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that way in some other areas too. You can see with MCC, they've got 5% built in. For better or for worse, there's several situations where there's out of our control in terms of
And
what that is.
What's
In
our
general-
health insurance cost per employee on a full?
Well, on a full, it's 20,000. So that's what I asked the other day when I saw this. I was like, do they have full family insurance for that, or is that part of it? Because we have really good insurance in the
Yeah,
school.
I guess that's why I asked,
But ours is $20,000 a year if no one, if
For
the
an
school
employee.
is paying for it.
and that's for
Family.
full family.
Family. But historically, because of the pool director, I communicate on an annual basis with the city, comparing our package increases with the cities, and generally, the city's increases are less than ours. Historically, so, because we're always trying to figure out what to propose for the pool director when it's, the board's made up of both the
Jeremy, if we're in a position, and we're very blessed right now, our enrollment's been steady, and you've seen what our unspent balance is and whatnot. But if we're in a position where things do take a turn for several years and go a different direction, then we have to explore, is that something we can, manage? Good news is, like I said, we're going to try to work that into our at-risk budget, which is not part of the same budget that comes out of teacher salaries, et cetera, et cetera.
I guess, look, once you make the switch to this, you're kind of headed down a track where it would be hard to step back out of it and go back the other way when you're used to having that police officer around here.
Well, that comes down to what the board has to prioritize and what you want.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, and let's be honest, if Officer Johnson were to leave and we're part of the interview process, and how do I say this nicely, if we're not happy with the candidate pool, and we say, hey, that's not a good fit, we might be back on the JCL. I mean,
We've got 60-day agreement can be terminated by either party.
right, so,
So we do have a way out, kind of, anyway-ish, but
And then, was there something in there that if Johnson does, if he were to quit, there was something like 10 days, they have 10 days to stick somebody back in here? Whether they're full-time that person or, but, did I read that correctly in there?
there's a 10-day window,
Where they at least need to put a presence back?
put a presence, and that may be Chief Clark filling in.
Yeah, maybe just.
It doesn't mean that's the person that will be full-time,
Yeah.
but we need something like that in place, so we're not, again, if it's the middle of February and we're out,
And we would continue to pay that same salary in that situation, so we're just gonna be basically sending a check to the city for 75% of a person that would be here, whether it's
Exactly.
Johnson or somebody else.
and that should be a short period of time, but yes, in the interim, that's how that would work.
Okay.
They're at the end of pay raises, they negotiated a unit, I believe, so whatever they do for him, they're doing across the board for,
Everybody else.
that kind of helps keep things in check too. It's not just, the police force isn't that big, but it's still,
Still, yeah.
a 4 or 5 acts as opposed to just one person, so.
Rob, from your background, and of course, I haven't planted this question with you, because you could say good, bad, or different.
Sure.
With your background, what would be something you would advise us to either, I know you already mentioned this one, side, but
Yeah.
something that keep an eye on that would be a pro or a con, or, just again, with your background, I would be interested to see what you think.
It's the discipline piece, hands down. When you have a hammer, everything becomes a nail. So that's the thing that we just have to be careful of. I know Officer Johnson pretty well. So I agree with your assessment, that he's a good fit. I obviously trust Mr. Snavely and Denise, and, I don't think it'll be a problem, but that fit is definitely key, and having that, just that clear purpose and clear mission for what he's here for.
We're on the same page, that was the first thing we said, though, Chief Clark, is we're not looking for somebody to come in here and, mano a mano, like, no, it's the relationship side.
It's important that we don't criminalize youthful mistakes,
Amen.
because truth is, we could all probably have a record for youthful mistakes, and most of us are fortunate to not have one, or at least if we remember one.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Never convicted.
Jury's pleading the fifth.
didn't get caught, so there.
That's right, Linda was sneaky.
Didn't get caught.
So,
No, well, I
Yeah.
respect your background, and if there's anything that you have, Rob, that you think would benefit us, let us know too.
that's pretty much it.
Like anything, we try it, we
Well,
like
that's
it, we
it.
continue, we don't, we got options.
This is a one-year contract,
Yep.
and we have 60-day window to if we want to terminate, so.
And I appreciate the city's willingness to step up and do this too. I mean, that was the variable we did not know when we started down this path, we didn't know. And so there had to be a lot of, we had to have conversations as a council, and so everybody came together on this. Like Linda said, it worked out.
It sounds like from what you're saying, it's all kind of, I know, there was a lot of legwork, but it did fall in place. Yeah, great. All right, so with that, we Motion carries. All right.
Okay. Letter D. Yeah, just the Chromebook bids, there were two of them. Oh, come on, computer load. I went to sleep, boy, sorry. Between IT Savvy and SHI, which is for our Chromebook bid out, you know how we replace, was it 7th and 10th grade?
Yeah.
Our rotations of those. And the tech department's recommending IT Savvy for that 52,530 versus 55,80. So I support that. I recommend that we go with IT Savvy.
We've been trying to get these all year. These are Chromebooks that we would normally have at the beginning of the school year.
That's
but we
right.
still don't have because of the backlog. So we're still backlogged for 4 months.
And they were just in telling us that. And wow. Okay.
And these are coming from Keppel, is where I budgeted for them this year.
I'll make a motion for individual action item letter D. Chromebook bids going with IT Savvy.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, letter E.
This is more of Stacy's alley, but I know that she mentioned to you, one of our board meetings recently, about looking at our bonds and refinancing right now what we can to save us money on the interest. And so the next three letters, E, F, and G, are in response to that. So Stacy, you want to walk them through E, F, and G, please? If there's anything you want to add?
And the Allers Cooney, they are our bonding attorneys. So this is basically their engagement letter for their services for the refinancing. And this is who we've used in the past. They're out of the knowing and they know what they're doing. So I'll need approval for that. Any questions?
So I may have just missed it, but what kind of reduction rate are we expecting?
They are estimating between $150,000 and $200,000 in interest savings
Over the life or annual?
over the remaining life of the bond.
What's for this elementary bond or the new?
No, these are for the 2015 series.
Yeah.
Yeah, elementary. Okay.
Elementary. Callable, I believe, in June of '21. So we're getting everything set up to do the refinancing when they become callable in June. So they said we could wait, but I didn't think it would be very fair to the new person to make them have to just jump into this. So we're getting everything set in place so that the refinancing can happen then. in June. And this was recommended by our financial, our bonding consultant for finance. Matt Gillespie is his name from Piper Jaffray. He's helped us with all of our bonds. And he was the one that approached us and said, this is what I'm looking at, this is what I see, if you're interested in doing it. Hard to ignore.
Yeah.
Wasn't really interested, but hard to ignore.
So what do we expect the cost of the attorneys to be in relation to the savings?
They don't give us that up front. It's always, he's including their cost and Piper's cost. I think Piper's actually private cost in there. Last time, I think it was around $10,000 for ours. And you can't do a refinancing without the bonding attorney and without the financial consultant. I've already read a lot of paperwork for this.
So E and F are just engagement letters. You want them to approve those, Stacy, first, then you can talk about the resolution. You want that?
Their fee in here is estimated to be around $12,500. And the expenses will not exceed, and then they have additional for copying, bonding, and bond printing and overnight charges, and that will not exceed $506.
simple. One could say, I'd like to approve letter E as stated, or F as stated, and then talk about letter G, this is a resolution.
So, yeah, I'll move to approve letter E as stated.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, F.
I move to approve letter F. As stated.
And Piper is the financial advisors. The ones that brought it to our attention, that we can say, I know, it's gonna be 200,000.
Did you get a second, Joey?
No, we will.
I think we're fighting over it. That's okay. All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, G.
So this is the formal paperwork to set a hearing for the refinancing, at our January meeting, which we've set it at 5:20 PM on January 13th, right before our regular meeting on January 13th. And this will, allow us to have a hearing if the public wants to come and ask questions, and then officially move forward. After the hearing, we'll approve it. And they already have a timeline set up for us. And bonds become callable in June. So this is just a formality of setting the hearing.
I'll make a motion, individual action item, letter G, as noted.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Actually, I think you need
It's
a
a
roll
roll,
call.
I think it's a
roll
roll call,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Sorry, need a roll call vote.
All right. Tim Barrett,
Yes.
Linda Duncan,
Yes.
Rob or Jeremy Lees,
Yes.
Rob Metzger.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, 5:20.
Excellent.
All right.
All right, moving on with informational items, and no hirings this month. Maintenance-wise, we talked a little bit about the building project. If you look at the Wilton Facebook high school posting today, there's like a really cool 360 view of the lobby, so if you get a chance, check that out. The windows are coming. That's been behind. They're not gonna be here till the first part of January. They've got plastic in where they can still put up drywall and do a lot of work. But you drove by lunch today, or maybe, well, the sun was out. They're putting on the blue steel for the roof. And they're prepping and possibly pouring concrete on the east side today, on the back side of the school. So things are moving. November wasn't as active as some of the other months. They were doing a lot of the work on the inside to finish the block work and whatnot. The masons are all done. And it'll be finished sometime this spring. All I know is what I've said in the beginning, it'll be in August of 21. But it's still moving forward, and I'm excited about that. Maybe once they get the windows in, we get some heat going. Maybe if they have that at our January board meeting, I'd like to take you down for a quick tour. But if you look on the Facebook post today, it gives you a good look at it too. Full board wise, anything to share from your recent meeting that's worth noting? I mean, there is,
We're trying to do some structural upkeep.
Yep.
And then, of course, because of the governor, trying to figure out what we can do, what we can't. We weren't doing, in swim lessons, they were doing some private swim lessons, some of the guards too. But, and then staff said that I think when we get back, then they're gonna start up the swim lessons. Because that is good revenue for us, and we haven't been able to do the actual swim lessons. And other than that, just trying to keep it clean and sanitize and all that, and
Which I think they're doing. I mean,
yes.
she's doing the best she can.
But other than that,
Yep, good.
legislatively, I sent you a link if anybody's interested.
yeah.
The legislators from the area, I don't know if Mr. Kaufman, Bobby can participate or not. They're just doing a Zoom call in tomorrow at 9:30. I sent you a link for that if you're interested. I did get a letter from Representative, well, I shouldn't say Representative, Senator Zach Walz.
Mhm.
He spoke at the dedication for the Freedom Rock, and some of you may know him. You know, he's our senatorial representative out of our city. He is now the minority leader of the Senate. So he's got a pretty good influence there. We had an RBC meeting last week as far as superintendents and whatnot, and he spoke at that, and he followed up the letter and was just talking about vaccine distribution or whatnot. And what he says from the legislative side is 1A, the first tier are the healthcare workers and the elderly and the assisted living and, nursing homes, et cetera. But 1B would be educators considered frontline workers. So
Oh,
good news is, we're a little bit, higher priority of getting our teaching staff and who works here, cooks, custodians, administrators, whoever, to get that shot. So that'll be nice. We'll see how that works for you. But otherwise, that's all I have from the legislative side. If there's anything from Goodwill, we've appointed the miscellaneous person, Rob. Way to go. 2 weeks from today was our first day of Christmas break. We get out of school on that Tuesday, the 22nd, at 1:15. So I mentioned this to my staff next door this morning. It's amazing, even they say time flies when you're having fun. Well, it hasn't been fun, but it's still fun. We're almost through the first semester.
yes.
And so, kudos to everyone that stepped up. And I know Derek put in the paper too, it's interesting, different parts of the state where people have been on hybrid and, been virtual or whatnot. But our numbers have been very good in Wilton and Durant. And we have to go to a virtual, we certainly will, but we're not going to jump to it just because other schools do. Every district's unique. I used the El Derecho example. If El Derecho went along Highway 30, which it did, and several schools had to shut down or go virtual because some of their buildings blew over, we wouldn't go virtual, right? Every district's kind of unique in their own sense with their COVID numbers too. So, but I've had several people say, well, I've seen these schools doing this, why aren't you doing that? It's different everywhere. We're in between Cedar and Muscatine County too, so we have to go by both of their numbers. And some schools, they might butt up to Johnson County, and it's every situation's unique, and we take it one day at a time. And so far, we've been blessed to be able to stay in school.
I think sometimes people forget about the cost that comes when you have to go either hybrid or fully virtual, and it's not a small thing. I know my staff has been run through the ringer with it at work, and it's, and we're pretty flexible, but, if you're in a job where you don't have that, it's, boy. So if we can avoid it, it's fantastic.
No, I agree. I agree. And, I haven't seen any research per se on this, but other than just as a parent, my daughter goes to school in the Iowa City School District, and they've been on hybrid the whole time. Well, their numbers are worse than what ours are being full-time. So I'm not, again, I have no statistical evidence, but I'm not convinced that schools are on a hybrid that end up having to go virtual are necessarily in a better spot than schools that have been full-time. I've always thought that truly you're either full-time or you're virtual. If we were in a hybrid, it would be more like 7-12 is virtual and K-6 is full-time. That to me would be the hybrid we would look at. But again, you just got to take it a day at a time, and who knows, depends on your numbers in your district. I thought it was interesting in the governor's press conference, some of the stats she was rolling off, that 2% of all of the COVID cases in the state were from kids ages 0 to 10. And from ages 11 to 14 was 3%. And then I don't recall what 15 to 18 was, but just, 2% of all of our cases in the state have been through kids 0 through 10. That's through 4th grade. So they've shown that, now that they've got some statistical data to back it, that's not the highest risk group. Obviously, your adults who are working with them are a much higher risk than the younger kids. But here or there, I just thought that was an interesting statistic. That's another reason why I would consider, if we could, if we had to go hybrid, of keeping our elementary students in the building too. We got to look at everybody's safety, but I will say this too. I look at this as a parent, and my daughter's entire first semester of her 8th grade year, you look at the lag and what they've missed out on from the academics to the social side. She didn't get to play basketball or volleyball, get that time back. It's gone. You know, and preparing for high school, taking pre-algebra classes, it's, you know, I mean, it's just, that's just the reality of it. Of course, you gotta see it, I get that, but I'm saying, in young people's lives, you don't get that back. So, that's all I have. Our next meeting is on the 13th of January at 5:20 for our hearing, for a resolution.
All right,
I vote to adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed?
There are Christmas cookies over there.